Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I greet you today not just with words, but with purpose. Let me begin with a truth that may challenge your comfort but will release your destiny. You were not born to live beneath your potential. You were not created to simply exist, to complain, to point fingers. No, you were designed for greatness, and winners, true winners, don't make excuses. There is something powerful about the human spirit, something that refuses to be confined, contained, or crushed. But that power only finds expression when a person is truly committed. Without commitment, even the most gifted among us will falter, and when commitment is absent, excuses step in. Excuses become the justification for delay, the comfort for stagnation, and the defense for failure. They sound reasonable, they sound intelligent, but they are nothing more than crutches. Crutches used by those who have no intention of finishing the race. You must understand this. Excuses are not the result of inability. Excuses are the result of unwillingness. The unwillingness to stretch, to sacrifice, to take full responsibility for one's own life. They are what people lean on when they've already made peace with not succeeding. They are the lies we tell ourselves to avoid the truth, that we didn't try hard enough, that we let fear guide our choices, or that we settled for less than what we were called to do. Every time a person makes an excuse, they are really saying, I'm not willing to do what it takes. When you are committed, truly committed, you stop giving yourself options to fail, you remove the back door, you burn the bridge to retreat. Commitment is not convenience, it is not emotion, it is a decision of the will that says, even when it's hard, I will move forward. But when someone lacks that level of commitment, their mind becomes fertile soil for excuses. They will blame the timing, they will blame the weather, they will blame their childhood, their spouse, their boss, their circumstances. But in truth, they are hiding from responsibility. You don't find committed people making excuses. Committed people find a way. They dig deep, they press through, they figure it out. Because when your heart is set, your creativity is activated. You begin to think in terms of how it can work, not why it won't. But uncommitted people don't see solutions because they've already decided to stop looking. The excuse becomes a wall they build around themselves, a prison they guard with their own words. I've seen people with limited resources, with physical disabilities, with painful pasts, rise up and accomplish incredible things. And I've seen people with every advantage fail to do anything significant. The difference wasn't talent, it wasn't intelligence, it was commitment. The committed individual will outlast and outperform the one who only talks about what could have been. Commitment puts pressure on your potential and brings out what was hidden inside. Excuses allow that potential to sit dormant, untouched, unexplored. Excuses also make you a victim. They strip you of your power, because every time you give an excuse, you give control to something outside of yourself. You say, it wasn't me, it was them, it was that, it was the timing. But when you take ownership, you regain control. You say, maybe I didn't know how, but I will learn. Maybe I didn't have the support, but I will find a way. Maybe I failed, but I will try again. That mindset belongs to the committed. That mindset belongs to the winner. There is a difference between an explanation and an excuse. An explanation accounts for reality, but an excuse avoids responsibility. An explanation is useful for growth, but an excuse is used to justify giving up. You must ask yourself, am I explaining so I can improve, or excusing myself so I can escape the demand to grow? If you truly desire to succeed, if you truly want to fulfill your purpose, you have to give up the luxury of excuses. And yes, excuses are a luxury because they allow you to stay comfortable. They protect your ego from the pain of failure. They protect you from the risk of being stretched. But what you don't confront, you can never conquer, and what you excuse, you will repeat. Many people pray for breakthrough, for opportunity, for favor. But when those things come, they meet people who are not prepared. Because instead of preparing in the dark, they were excusing themselves in the light. Your future does not need more excuses. It needs discipline. It needs hunger. It needs perseverance. These are the qualities of those who win, not because life was easy, but because they refuse to lean on a crutch. So don't tell yourself another reason why it won't work. Don't repeat the same lines about why it's too late or too hard. Winners are not those who never faced obstacles. They are those who refused to let obstacles become their excuse. They kept walking even with pain. They kept building even without applause. They kept speaking truth even when misunderstood, because commitment speaks louder than opposition, and when you stop making excuses, something happens inside you. You begin to realize just how much you are capable of. You begin to tap into the power that was always there, buried under the rubble of rationalization. You begin to live, not from fear, but from faith. You begin to rise, not because conditions changed, but because you did. Winners don't use crutches. They build strength, they stand up, they move forward, and they keep going no matter what. There is a truth that every human being must come to realize if they ever hope to live a life of fulfillment, purpose, and influence. That truth is this: you already have what you need. You were born fully loaded. You came into this world carrying within you the seeds of your own success, the tools, the capacity, the vision. It was all placed in you before you even had the chance to ask for it. You are not empty. You are not deficient. You are not lacking. You are equipped. Most people fail not because they didn't have the opportunity, but because they never recognized what they already possessed. They spent their lives looking outward, chasing validation, begging for resources, waiting for someone to discover them, when in fact they were already loaded with everything necessary to become who they were born to be. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become yourself, your true self, and that self is not empty. That self is not without substance. You were created with intent, by intent, and for intent. You are not a mistake. You are a solution waiting to be realized. The great tragedy of life is not death. It is to live without ever discovering what was inside you. It is to go to the grave full of potential, full of dreams unfulfilled, songs unsung, books unwritten, businesses unlaunched, ideas never tested. It is to allow fear and comparison and self-doubt to bury the treasure that was given to you at birth. Every one of us is born with a gift, a calling, a unique contribution to make, but many live as though they were born with nothing, waiting for something external to activate them, never realizing that they were already activated when they took their first breath. Think about it. The seed of an oak tree doesn't look like a forest, but in that one seed lies the blueprint, the capacity, the code for something massive. The only thing it needs is the right environment, consistent nourishment, and time. And it is the same with you. You may not see it now, others may not see it in you, but what you carry is significant. What you carry is powerful. And if you will nurture it, if you will protect it, if you will believe in it, it will grow into something bigger than you imagined. This is why excuses are dangerous, because every excuse is a denial of your design. Every excuse says, "What I have is not enough." And yet the Creator of the universe looked at you and said, "Very good." You were approved before anyone could reject you. Your design was intentional, your gifting was precise, there is no flaw in the blueprint, but if you fail to believe that, you will sabotage your own growth. You will disqualify yourself from things you were born to do simply because you don't recognize what's already inside of you. You must stop waiting for perfect conditions. You must stop delaying until you have more money, more time, more support. What you have now is enough to start. It may not be enough to finish, but it is enough to begin. And beginning is what activates more provision. You don't get more until you move with what you have, because faith attracts supply. Faith moves mountains. Faith pulls out of you the ability you didn't even know you had. Many people look at others and say, "If I had what they have, I could succeed too." But the truth is, you don't need what they have. You need what you have. Your journey is tailored for your gift. Your battle is customized for your capacity. What looks like a limitation may actually be a hidden advantage. What you think disqualifies you might be the very thing that makes you different, relevant, necessary. The problem is not what you don't have. The problem is that you don't value what you do. If you study the lives of those who changed the world, you will find a common thread. They used what they had. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't complain about their lack. They worked with the little they had until it became much. David had a sling. Moses had a staff. A widow had a jar of oil. A young boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish. None of these things looked like enough, but they were used by people who believed, and belief multiplies potential. Belief releases divine favor. Belief turns ordinary into extraordinary. You are no different. What is in your hand right now may look small, but if it's used with faith and commitment, it can open doors you never imagined. Don't wait for someone else to recognize your worth. Don't wait for someone else to give you value. You were valuable before anyone had an opinion. You were enough before anyone ever applauded you. What you need to do is activate what's within. Stir it up, develop it, refine it. Don't bury it under excuses. Don't cover it in fear. You already have what it takes, not because of external validation, but because of internal design. Your birth was the Creator's statement that something was missing in the world until you arrived. And when you discover what's inside of you, you'll stop chasing what was never meant for you, and start becoming what you were always meant to be. One of the greatest deceptions people fall into is believing that their current condition has the final say over their future. They believe that if they were born into lack, they must live in lack. If they were born into pain, they must stay broken. If they didn't receive the right education, the right support, the right timing, then success is forever beyond their reach. But that is not the truth. That is not how life was designed. The most powerful force shaping your destiny is not your conditions. It is your decisions. Every person born into this world arrives under different circumstances. Some are born into wealth, others into poverty. Some have nurturing homes, others have no homes at all. Some experience opportunity early, while others must claw their way through every barrier. But history has shown us something very clear. Those conditions, while real, are not what determine greatness. The poorest have risen, the overlooked have led, the uneducated have built empires. What made the difference? A decision to believe, to move, to change, to act. Conditions are the starting point, but decisions determine the destination. It is your decisions that determine what you do with the hand you've been dealt. You may not have chosen your beginning, but you do choose your next step. Every day you choose whether to rise or retreat, whether to speak up or remain silent, whether to pursue your purpose or hide behind fear. These choices are not neutral. They are steering your life. Every decision, no matter how small, is a seed that produces fruit. You cannot harvest success from the soil of indecision. Winners are not those who never had obstacles. In fact, most winners were surrounded by opposition, but they made a decision not to be defined by it. They decided they would not let their environment dictate their expectations. They decided they would not allow other people's opinions to shape their identity. They decided they would not accept limitation as their legacy. That decision, though invisible to others, became the force that changed everything. Because when you decide, you set a course. And when you follow that course with consistency, the world must eventually respond. Decisions are powerful because they are under your control. You may not control the economy. You may not control your past. You may not control what others do or say. But you do control what you choose. And that choice gives you authority over your own life. The person who blames their conditions surrenders that authority. They give power to circumstances and become a victim of their surroundings. But the person who takes responsibility, who says, "I choose to rise," takes back control. They become a participant in their own transformation. Too many people wait for things to change before they move. They wait for signs, for certainty, for approval. But winners do not wait. They decide. They move while others hesitate. They act when others analyze. They step forward even when the ground looks uncertain, because they understand that life bends in the direction of the committed. The one who makes bold decisions activates forces that the passive will never encounter. Opportunities respond to movement. Favor finds the courageous. Provision follows the path of purpose, but only for those who dare to take the first step. Your life today is the product of yesterday's decisions. And your life tomorrow will be shaped by the decisions you make now. No one escapes this law. You cannot wish your way into success. You cannot hope your way into impact. You must decide your way into it. You must make choices that align with who you want to become. Your decision is your permission. Until you decide, nothing begins. Don't let fear hold the pen that writes your future. Fear will always argue for delay. It will always exaggerate the risks. It will always remind you of your past failures. But winners don't silence fear by waiting. They silence it by deciding. A made-up mind has power. When you truly decide, you eliminate all other options. You stop giving time and attention to alternatives that lead to nowhere. You no longer entertain distractions that dilute your focus. The made-up mind is a magnet. It attracts the discipline, the ideas, the people, and the momentum necessary for your next level. Even when you make mistakes, and you will, a person who decides learns faster. They grow from experience, they adjust, they rise again, but the person who never decides is paralyzed. They sit on the sidelines, analyzing possibilities until opportunity has passed them by. Regret is born in indecision. Destiny is birthed in deliberate choice. Every great leader, every innovator, every world changer came to a point where they had to make a decision, stay where they were or step into the unknown. Keep playing small or risk stepping into significance. Wait for someone else to validate them, or move with the quiet confidence that what they carry is enough. And they chose, they decided, and in that decision they unlocked doors that had been invisible before. So stop looking at your conditions. Stop measuring your future by your environment. The key is not what's happening around you. The key is what's happening within you. If you want a new life, make a new decision. If you want a better outcome, make a bolder choice. Because your future is not waiting for your conditions to improve, it's waiting for you to decide. Every time a person opens their mouth to give an excuse, they reveal more than just an obstacle. They reveal their priorities. Because what you make time for, what you fight for, and what you consistently excuse are all mirrors of your true values. No matter what someone says is important to them, their actions, specifically their justifications, tell the real story. You can say you want to succeed, you can say you want to grow, you can say you want to lead, but if your life is built around excuses, then those words are empty. Because excuses are not just detours, they are confessions. An excuse is the verbal evidence of a misplaced priority. When someone says, "I don't have time," what they're really saying is, "It's not important enough to me." When someone says, "I'm too tired," they're really saying, "I'd rather rest than rise." When someone says, "It's too hard," they're really saying, "My comfort means more than my calling." And these admissions are dangerous, not because they reflect truth, but because they often become truth. The more you excuse something, the more you begin to believe that the reason is real. But it's not real, it's a choice disguised as a limitation. The things you continually excuse are often the things you are unwilling to commit to. Because anything that matters deeply to you, you will find a way to pursue. You will rearrange your schedule, you will shift your budget, you will change your habits, you will endure discomfort. That's the power of true priority. It makes excuses irrelevant. When something matters enough, you push past what's convenient. But when it doesn't, you start to rationalize your lack of action, and you call it a reason, but it's really a replacement for responsibility, a replacement for discipline, a replacement for transformation. People often say, "I would do more if I had more." But what they don't realize is that more only magnifies what already exists. If you excuse now with little, you will excuse even more when you have much. If you delay now with a small task, you will delay greater opportunities later. Your current pattern is your future proof. You don't grow into responsibility. You choose it, and excuse is short. Circuit that growth. They make it acceptable to stay where you are. They comfort you into complacency, but purpose never lives in comfort. Destiny does not grow in excuses. It grows in decision, in discipline, in alignment. If you want to understand what someone truly values, don't listen to what they promise. Watch what they excuse. A person may say they value health, but if they keep excusing why they can't eat right or exercise, they don't. A person may say they want to write a book, start a business, become a leader, but if they're always too busy, too tired, or too unsure, they've prioritized fear over their future. The truth is, you will always prioritize what matters most to you, and everything else will be justified away. That's why people who live without excuses are dangerous to mediocrity, because they refuse to allow circumstances to shape their commitment. They don't need everything to be ideal in order to take action. They don't need applause to keep going. They don't need approval to begin. They are governed by purpose, not pressure. They are anchored by vision, not validation. They are ruled by their convictions, not by their conveniences. And that's why they rise, that's why they lead, that's why they win. Excuses are attractive because they give us permission to delay without guilt. They give us a false sense of peace while our purpose dies quietly in the background. But peace bought with excuses is not peace, it's escape. And the longer you make room for escape, the further you drift from the life you were meant to live. The uncomfortable truth is that excuses don't just hold you back. They tell on you. They tell what you really fear. They tell what you really value. They tell what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. If you want to change your life, you don't start by changing your job or your environment. You start by changing your excuses. You examine every sentence you've used to delay your next step. You confront every narrative you've believed about why now isn't the right time. You identify every excuse that has disguised itself as a reason, and you replace it with resolve. Because once your priorities shift, your life will shift. Once you value purpose over comfort, growth over excuses, responsibility over rationalization, your actions will follow, and once your actions shift, your results will too. Your future is waiting, but it won't wait forever. The opportunities you keep excusing today may not be available tomorrow. The people you're meant to impact are waiting for you to step beyond your justifications and into your assignment. Your destiny is not stuck behind your lack of resources. It's stuck behind your abundance of excuses. And when you stop making them, you'll discover that what you thought was holding you back was never the real issue. The real issue was your priorities. But the good news is that you can change them today. You can align them. You can elevate them. And when you do, you'll no longer need to explain why you didn't. You'll be too busy proving what happens when you finally do. Success is not something that visits the comfortable. It doesn't settle in the lives of those who organize everything to avoid struggle, to escape pressure, or to preserve convenience. Success comes to those who are willing to trade ease for excellence, who are prepared to embrace discomfort in order to achieve something meaningful. It is a contradiction to say that you want greatness, but you live in a way that prioritizes rest over responsibility, delay over discipline, or relaxation over results. You can't claim to want success and then organize your habits, your schedule, your relationships, and your mindset around staying comfortable. That is not the path of achievers. That is the path of dreamers who never wake up. Success will always cost you something, and the price is most often your comfort. Because comfort is the enemy of growth. It is the breeding ground of stagnation. The moment you become too comfortable, you stop stretching. You stop evolving. You stop demanding more from yourself. And that is when you begin to decline, even if everything around you looks stable. Comfort feels good, but it rarely produces anything great. It's a trap dressed in peace. It whispers to you that you've done enough, that you've worked hard already, that you deserve to coast now. But coasting is the first step toward drifting, and drifting is how people lose sight of their purpose without even realizing it. Every great accomplishment in history was born from discomfort. Whether it was inventors working long nights, leaders enduring criticism, or entrepreneurs risking what little they had, the common thread was this: they chose purpose over pleasure. They organized their lives around progress, not preference, and they did not allow temporary discomfort to distract them from long-term destiny. If you look closely at your own life, you'll see the same pattern. Every season of true growth required you to push past what was easy. It demanded sacrifice. It asked you to show up when you were tired, to keep going when it wasn't working yet, to believe when the results weren't visible. That is the price, that is the process. And yet, in today's world, we are told that anything that doesn't feel good should be avoided. That pressure is unhealthy, that stress is unnecessary, that grind is toxic. But the truth is, there is a kind of stress that strengthens you. There is a kind of pressure that purifies you. There is a kind of struggle that prepares you for more. Diamonds don't form in ease, muscles don't grow without resistance, and character doesn't mature without trials. So if you want to be successful, you must be willing to endure seasons that are uncomfortable, unpredictable, and even painful. Because those seasons are shaping you for what you said you wanted. You can't have a high calling and a low pain tolerance. You can't have a big dream and a lazy routine. You can't desire impact and then complain about inconvenience. If you want to do something significant with your life, you must stop organizing your day around what's easy and start aligning it with what's essential. That means your time must be managed with intention. Your relationships must be pruned with clarity. Your mindset must be trained with discipline, because success doesn't visit the scattered. It rewards the structured. It rewards the consistent. It rewards those who make room for it. There are many people who say they want to succeed, but their calendar tells another story. Their choices betray their words. They spend hours on entertainment, but none on execution. They read motivational quotes, but never apply the principles. They start and stop, bounce from idea to idea, and wonder why nothing is working. It's not that they lack desire, it's that their desire is buried beneath a life of distractions. They have not created a system that supports what they say they want. And until you do that, success will always feel out of reach, not because it's hiding, but because it requires structure. Structure is not restriction, it's preparation. It's how you build a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your future. Comfort avoids structure because it loves spontaneity. It loves going with the flow, but success is not random. It is predictable. It follows the law of preparation. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you plan for, prepare for, and persist through. And that planning requires daily, sometimes hourly, choices that are uncomfortable. Waking up earlier, saying no to things that others say yes to, working on your goals when no one is watching, doing what's necessary when you'd rather do what's easy. That's the life of a winner. You have to decide what matters more to you. Comfort or calling, ease or elevation, coasting or climbing. You can't have both. Not at the same time. Every day you are voting with your habits. And your habits are either casting a ballot for the future you desire or the future you dread. If you want success, you must remove the pillows from your path and pick up your cross. You must stop making everything convenient and start making your life congruent with your vision. The harvest of success is not random. It is the result of a planted, watered, protected seed, cultivated in faith, grown through sacrifice, and guarded from distraction. You don't get that kind of harvest while living in comfort. You get it when you've made the decision to build a life that supports your future, not just your feelings, because in the end, success does not respond to wishes. It responds to work. It answers the call of those who are willing to walk away from comfort to walk into their calling. One of the greatest signs of maturity, leadership, and personal greatness is the ability to hold yourself accountable. Long before anyone checks on you, long before anyone calls you out, long before the results become public, winners have already examined themselves. They do not wait for criticism to correct their course. They don't need external pressure to perform with excellence. They carry an inner standard that governs their decisions, disciplines their behavior, and sharpens their focus. That's what separates them from the crowd. It's not just talent. It's not just opportunity. It's a deep internal sense of responsibility that refuses to wait for others to demand what they already expect of themselves. When you hold yourself accountable, you become your own supervisor. You stop needing someone to chase you down, remind you of your goals, or confront your inconsistencies. You rise in the morning not because someone is watching, but because your mission is calling. You give your best, not because someone is grading you, but because you know who you are and what you were made to do. Winners don't need a stage to perform with excellence. They bring their highest standard to the shadows, to the small tasks, to the unseen work. Because accountability is not about being seen, it's about being trustworthy. There's a kind of person who always needs someone else to keep them in line, someone else to check on them, someone else to tell them what to do. But winners don't live like that. They have mastered the ability to self-correct, to self-motivate, to self-evaluate, and that's why they keep rising, because they don't need a crisis to become focused. They don't need failure to get serious. They don't wait for consequences to change their habits. They stay ahead of the curve by keeping their own soul in check. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's not pressure, that's principle. Most people want freedom, but freedom is only safe in the hands of the accountable. Without accountability, freedom becomes chaos. It becomes wasted time, squandered opportunity, and undisciplined potential. But when a person governs themselves, they can be trusted with more. With freedom comes responsibility, and with responsibility comes reward. That's why the most successful people are often the most self-governed. They are not moved by moods, they are not manipulated by emotions. They have developed the ability to say to themselves, "This is what must be done, so I will do it, whether they feel like it or not." True accountability is not just about correcting what went wrong, it's about preventing what could go wrong. It means asking yourself hard questions before anyone else does. Did I give my best? Did I meet my own standard? Did I stay focused on what really matters? Did I keep my word, not just to others, but to myself? These questions are the foundation of growth. They are how winners continue to elevate while others stagnate. Because you can't improve what you won't confront, and you can't confront what you keep ignoring. When you blame others, you give away your power. When you delay ownership, you delay your development. But when you own your actions, your mistakes, your habits, you unlock the ability to change them. You don't grow by hiding, you grow by owning. There's nothing noble about denial. There's nothing empowering about excuses. Winners are not perfect, but they are honest. Honest enough to admit when they've fallen short. Honest enough to adjust without being asked. Honest enough to face themselves even when it's uncomfortable. That kind of honesty creates momentum. It creates maturity and it earns trust. Not just from others, but from within. Because the truth is, you can't trust yourself if you're always breaking your own standards. If you say one thing and do another, you erode your own confidence. You start doubting your own word. But when you consistently hold yourself accountable, when you do what you said you would do, when you stay aligned with your values, you start building internal credibility. And that credibility turns into confidence, not arrogance. Confidence. The kind that allows you to lead without apology, the kind that gives you peace because you know you're walking in integrity. Winners live with a sense of urgency, not driven by panic, but by purpose. They know time is precious. They know opportunity doesn't wait. They know potential has an expiration date, and that's why they don't waste hours in regret or distraction. They hold themselves accountable for how they use their energy, their influence, their resources. They guard what's been entrusted to them, and that's why they're trusted with more. You don't need someone to tell you when you've wasted time. You know. You don't need someone to point out that you've been inconsistent. You feel it. And the more you ignore that inner voice, the more you lose alignment. But when you listen, when you take personal inventory and adjust, you keep your life on track. You accelerate your progress. You attract results. You build a reputation, not just with others, but with yourself. It's time to stop waiting for someone else to challenge you, to coach you, to call you out. Step into that role for yourself. Become your own accountability partner. Be the kind of person who doesn't need to be watched to do the right thing, who doesn't need a deadline to act with urgency, who doesn't need applause to give their all. Because when you live like that, success becomes a byproduct. Excellence becomes a habit, and greatness becomes inevitable. So when it's all said and done, you must decide what kind of person you want to be. One who explains or one who executes. One who justifies failure or one who takes full ownership of their future. Excuses may offer comfort, but they never produce change. They may shield your ego, but they will suffocate your potential. You cannot excuse your way into excellence. You cannot justify your way into leadership. And you cannot blame your way into victory. Winners rise not because life is easier for them, but because they refuse to bow to the things that keep others bound. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't depend on external validation. They don't ask permission to become great. They make a decision, they make a commitment, and they follow through, no matter how hard, how long, or how lonely the road becomes. If you want to be a winner in life, the first battle is not with others, it's with your excuses. Silence them, starve them, replace them with responsibility, discipline, and purpose. Because the moment you stop explaining why you can't is the moment you start proving that you can. And once you live like that, you don't just win, you become unstoppable.